one.When C64 presents a Playguide and video review. Sit back and enjoy the show.
Hey there, welcome to another Lemon C64 Play Guide and Review. In this episode, we'll be taking a look at BMX Kidz, produced by Firebird and released in 1987. To begin, we are presented with a loading screen by Bob Stevenson, and that gives us a flavour of this game. Not unlike many Commodore 64 racers, this is not on the flat plane overhead variety, this is side-scrolling 3D. To begin with, we are presented again with amazing music by Rob Hubbard as per usual, and that gives us yet again another flavour for this game. The title screen is made up of this not so very long loop of text. From here you can see the authors, and of course Rob Hubbard spelled with a double B, not quite sure why that is, and Doc. If you've wondered what Doc is, well, Doc is actually Paul Doherty. He created the graphics for this game, and he began mainly coding loading screens, just like Bob Stevenson. He actually created the Park Patrol loading screen, as well as hits like IK Plus in 1987, and great classics Tusker in 1989, and the very deep Time Machine in 1990. And this code was actually created by Joe Bonar, given the benefit of the doubt, and Dave Korn. Dave Korn went on to Arcade Classics and created Thrust 2 for Firebird in 1988. And lastly, of course, the music that was created by Rob Hubbard with additional help from Jori Alkinen. This title music appears very dated now, but at the time it appeared very current with the hip-hop scene and the techno scene merging together, which would go into the 90s rave and hardcore techno scene, but for the moment it was magic to hear this coming from a Commodore 64. But let's not waste any more time, let's press that fire button and let's check out the game itself.
Go!
After a very long, annoying black pause, we finally get to the game itself, and here you can see a 3D-like Excite Bike game, which went on to inspire that, no doubt. And here we are a cyclist. All we have to do is to collect those what look like trash cans floating around. That will give us more energy. You can see the energy bar on the very bottom. All we have to do is to get in front of those other guys on this first stage, and you don't really have to perform any tricks either. But you can perform tricks by pressing that fire button. We can jump, and if we hold down that fire button and pull left on the very highest jumps, then we'll do a very exciting stunt, and that will definitely be required on the later levels when you have to earn positions in this race by acquiring those stunts. And if you haven't got that quota up to scratch by the end of that race, then even if you win that, then you can't progress onto the next level. In the day I could get quite far in this game, up to maybe level 5 or level 6, but unfortunately this second track requires one stunt and one wheelie, and we aren't going to accomplish that unfortunately on this playthrough. The stunts can only really be performed on those very highest jumps, so the main tip to start with is to just race ahead of all those other guys by having the most energy. The stunts will also damage our bike, and you can see in the very centre bottom it says spokes. We have 55 and just 75 now. When we perform a stunt we will lose spokes, so we have to have virtually 100% before we try any jumps or anything like that. And if we run out of spokes or run out of energy, then unfortunately it's game over. And if we don't win that race, it's game over. And if we don't get all those stunts together, it is also game over. The end of every game will be presented by the high score table, which really does stretch on for miles, and so usually the weakest scores generally get some kind of score on the high score table. Unfortunately, you'll have to wait for all those to scroll through, and then you can finally enter your name on the keyboard. And that's 1,504 points in between Tangerine Dream and many other influences which influence the coders of this game. So let's try that again. Let's press fire and march straight through the introduction screen and wait through more black screens until we get to the game itself. And in this game, the very first level is pretty easy as long as you collect all those trash cans, and if you don't, you'll find yourself behind. Don't bother pressing that fire button, otherwise you'll slow down. Don't bother doing any stunts either like this, otherwise you'll slow down. And when you have to perform stunts, it apparently plays a sound effect when those are complete, and so by timing those you can get those in these small gaps and hopefully get those wheelies in before you run out of land. And you have to get all the way through this track in order to get through to the next level, of course, and there are no shortcuts like BMX Sim and other simpler games, but this very simple format realize the fact that it's very hard, and yes, I'm always just in front of those guys without performing any stunts whatsoever. We can see also a small attempts bonus because we did make a few attempts at a few wheelies, even though we didn't really pull those off in time. And so let's move on to the next track where again one wheelie and one stunt is required. As soon as the player gets to know the formula of these levels and then it clicks, then they can get far pretty easily. It's just that after all these years I'm not really getting anywhere with it. Instead of going off, we'll actually clatter against those other riders, and that's great. It wouldn't be very fair to go off colliding with those, because they can wander into our path very quickly. And so the best way to avoid those is to get some kind of distance, and yet again trying to perform a stunt, make sure that we only just make it, but unfortunately not enough tricks, and so we'll have to go back to that high score table. This game appeared for $1.99 on British Telecom's Firebird level, and I think for £2 it certainly goes pretty quickly if you can't get anywhere with it. But if you do get into this game, then you'll form a better opinion, and the magazine reviewers were mixed on their opinions, but usually on the lower side, because this game can get pretty annoying if you can't get anywhere, and unless it does click, then you'll find it annoying for sure. The graphics are textured, and that's more that you can hope for on a Commodore 64 really, but you can see this very limited screen size and limited colour palette means that some compromises had to be met, and even though we have superb music, maybe the sound effects aren't absolutely amazing, but still a little bit better than what we got on most BMX racers, and some of those were pretty dire on the C64. On the 64 we fail yet again to pull off a stunt, but this is yet again the first track, so that's not so bad. Go. No, the problem comes with these very long pauses, which aren't really necessary in the game once it's loaded into memory. The other thing is, don't bother with any of these jumps until you get to those special points with the very highest jumps, otherwise you'll be wasting your time. The gameplay suffers from that mechanic, and if you do too many of those jumps you'll just run out of spokes and die, and the amount of times you can die and the very quickness of that death is quite annoying. Even though I have a few fond memories of this game and playing it sometimes, I don't think, even though it is probably the best BMX outside of the Codemasters release on the C64, but apart from that, the current Lemon 64 score is 6.5 out of 10, that's 65%. Commodore user gave it 60%, while Zap gave this 79%. but I'm going to average those out slightly down to 6.5 out of 10, because basically it's not as good as the music would make it sound. And you can see the remix that you can hear at the moment of the title theme by Jori Olkonen, or Olkonen, is great. Final message from Jack Trammell. Let's wish you all a very happy new year, and this is the final video of the year, so I hope you have watched and enjoyed some of my Lemon 64 play guides and reviews, and we'll be continuing for a little while before we take a break and hopefully introduce you guys to some more great games and some more great music. So thank you.
Go, 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 go.